Welcome to Myth Informed with your hosts, Brian and Dimitri. Today we have the pleasure of chatting with the CEO of the Atheist Republic, Allie Jackson. The Atheist Republic advocates against religious and dogmatic teachings that promote violence and oppression. Their mission is to invite people that are already atheists to join each other and help lessen misery and suffering. Besides running an organization dedicated to social good, Allie is an accomplished writer, a repeat guest on the Myth Informed podcast, and an upcoming speaker at MythCon 5 discussing whether the political climate has divided the atheist community. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So it's been a little while since you've been on the show. I think it's something like a year and a half now.
Too long.
Yeah. What's been new? What's been happening?
So a lot of new things are happening this year that I am so excited about. Armin Navabi and I started Atheist Republic News podcast. So every week we get together and discuss news that's relevant to the atheist community or secular communities. Sometimes we just offer our opinions on news that's going on around the world right now. And we are also launching Atheist Republic Discussions, which is coming up next week. So
that's awesome.
Tell us a little bit about Atheist Republic Discussions.
This one's going to be awesome. So Armin and I kind of get going back and forth on ideas. We don't have the same opinions on everything. So this is going to be a podcast that kind of lets us discuss things that are going on right now. We're going to be bringing on guests to also discuss anything relevant in the atheist community and kind of throw our own 2 cents at it or fight over it or whatever it comes to be. So it's going to be a pretty interesting podcast.
Wow. And for those that may not have caught the prior shows when you've been on, can you give just kind of a quick snapshot, bullet pointed list of really what Atheist Republic does? You guys do amazing work around the world, like your consulate effort and some of the community building things that you guys do.
Right. You're actually not a country, right? You're not the public. Okay.
We're not. And hilariously enough, we actually get that. Sadly enough, we get that question quite a bit from people who are looking to escape their own countries for really sad reasons. So when people ask me what we do at Atheist Republic, I kind of freeze and have to think about that for a second, because I think it'd be easier for me to list what we don't do. But even that's risky because I'd end up doing it. We publish books. We publish news, blogs. We do run consulates around the world, which help bring atheists out from behind their computers, get involved in their communities. We have, for example, our Mexico consulates. They get together and they do like pride parade together. They like to protest at homeopathy hospitals. They do great work. They feed the hungry and things like that. So, it kind of brings people out to say, I don't have to believe in God to do good things, or even just I don't have to believe in God to belong to a community. And you can get together for some drinks or go hang out over some coffee or form a book club. So we have all these different consulates all around the world. I think right now we're at over 200. It becomes very, as you can imagine, it becomes very, very time consuming. But we do so much. We run a one-on-one support group that helps atheists around the world. Now, this one-on-one support group was actually what I focused my talk on MythCon 3, or at least I brought that up to some extent because that work becomes very personal, and it really helps kind of show what's going on around the world to people who wouldn't know otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Well, people are typically confused about the I'll call it the atheist community, but I don't know if you saw that on the thread when we announced you and some of the other people on the panel for MythCon 5. There were folks who are not familiar with the non-believers or the secular community, they're like, oh, what do you just gather around the idea of non-belief? Isn't that a religion in and of itself? But people forget that we're kind of tribal in nature. We like to gather. We need reasons to gather. We need themed parties and, you know, all sorts of crap to make us feel like we belong. And so I think this is what you guys do, but on a global level.
Well, absolutely. And what you mentioned, and I did see that thread, by the way, and I wished so much that I had time to respond. That's one of the downsides of doing this. You don't have as much time to do those things that you want. What people need to realize is there are mothers out there who are, and fathers who are losing their babies after they're born. And they need a place where they can go and grieve, where people aren't shoving down their throat that God needed another angel. There are countries out there right now where people are being killed for saying, hey, you know what, maybe atheists aren't so bad. Marshall Khan, okay? There are so many different things that take up why we need an atheist community, that if you don't have a personal reason to be in the atheist community, that's fine. Don't be in one. And there isn't just one atheist community. There are tons of different communities. Atheist Republic has a community that, you know, isn't for everybody, and that's great. But I hope that if they need a community, they find one out there that's good for them, especially, like I said, during those times of grieving, during those times where life isn't so peachy and you just need a friend that's not going to tell you to pray about it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, you can see this in fundamentalist religions where you can lose your community. You can get booted out. You can lose your family, right? If you were a mom or a dad and you became a non-believer, maybe you express this too much and like everybody turns away. And if you had a very insular community, like where do you have to go? And you were kicked out, you know, you're finding somebody else that has maybe a similar story. Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's not as bad. That's good to be able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's good to be able to talk about it with somebody who understands that thoughts and prayers are meaningless. They're not going to help. And, you know, it's nice to be able to talk to somebody who says, you know what, things suck for you right now. And that really, really is terrible. Like, it's unfair. A grieving person hearing that can get so much more out of a conversation. When you're just honest with someone who's grieving, I've lost my child, I'm grieving, I'm upset. And you say, you know what, that fucking sucks. It shouldn't have happened to you. No mother should ever lose their child. And I, you know, give them a hug. Hearing that is so much more comforting than your baby has wings now. Your baby's in heaven now. Fuck that.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating when people don't understand why atheists need a community. Like I said, if you don't need one, that's great. Don't belong to one. No one is forcing you, but you can't take the validity away from the communities that we have built.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone needs a community, whether you're an atheist or religious. You may or may not be in a religious or atheist community.
Whether you're a knitter,
you're in.
You know what I mean? Even knitters get together, and they have a community where they discuss their latest projects and whatnot, and get ideas from each other. So absolutely, like, everyone needs a community for something.
Yeah,
and you know,
more than one, and
absolutely.
You can get in and out of these. You can change them. You can go back and.
You can grow and decide that another community is better for you, and that's great.
I think it was maybe conflating the militant atheism that people think. I mean, it's fair enough. You know, if it's in your face, I understand how people could be annoyed by that. But they were conflating the two things, and you know, communities are essential to life. You know, we're social creatures. But people who are hyper individualist, I guess they may not believe in that. I do find it interesting that in this country, I can speak for myself personally. Maybe this applies to Brian too, but I don't really find that there's a lot of hate in the U.S. I mean, I'm very open about the fact that I'm secular, and I've never gotten a reaction like I'm some sort of a heathen, which is nice. But maybe that's a Midwest thing. And I know that there's still some, there's no representation in government, so that's still kind of a battle. But what have you seen from the national scene? Are there communities where it's difficult, where you're shunned? Maybe rural America, whatever it is, where we still need work to do, and that's why you guys are so critical.
Absolutely. First of all, where I live, it's a very unforgiving community for atheists. So that's why I like living in Texas, because when people hear that I'm an atheist, I typically get, "Oh, but you're so nice." And it's like, yes, I am nice and I'm an atheist. So, we kind of need that representation out there. And it really does help change some perspective. So one person at a time, that's great. But, especially through our support group, through various closed groups that we have on Facebook and our online web forum on our website, we hear from people all over the world that are still suffering. Parents who don't understand, parents that force their kids, and we get a lot of kids, teenagers that come to us being like, "I don't want to go to church anymore. What can I do? My parents don't understand me. They don't understand why I feel the way I feel, and they feel that I'm evil. They feel that I'm possessed." So we get things like that. But on the alternative here, we get some pretty serious requests from people needing help in the United States as atheists. And I'm talking about women getting thrown out of their homes. I almost cried on stage of MythCon 3 talking about a woman who I had like $50, and I'm trying to get in touch. They're trying to see if I can find her a bus ticket anywhere, because she was just so she was in so much danger. And people don't take to it lightly, especially family in the United States. So while it's not the same, say in like an Islamic country, if someone finds out you're an atheist, getting shunned from your home, getting kicked out of your home, becoming homeless, getting raped, because somebody thinks that you're a nasty heathen and you'll enjoy it. These are the things that some atheists in the US are facing.
That's, I think, fascinating. And people don't understand that this is the reality in certain parts of the world. So while we've kind of, for the MythCon series, we've maybe shifted a little away from doing debates on God versus no God, because those are done in other places and other conferences, and I think they're doing a fantastic job with it. But we've shifted the platform. But the work that you and other organizations do is still on the ground, is still incredibly valuable. And these people can't just go to the police, don't give a shit about them. I mean, they're not gonna hang out with them after the fact. They're not gonna help them get settled. They need not-for-profit organizations that are really gonna provide that legwork. And thank you, Allie, for what you and Armin do.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the other cool parts about MythCon 3 in your speech was you showed a woman that was doing the Hijra, like that. She's like the Hajj to the Hajj to Mecca, right? And so they're circling around. So you would think, you're wearing the white robe, you would think, wow, these are very very devout Muslims. Yet she's risks it by taking a cell phone picture with the word atheist, there. You could see the Kaaba too, and I'm like, okay, that's ballsy. And it just shows things aren't always what you see, right? So any person there circling the Kaaba could have been compelled. They're not. You can't just assume what they believe. Diversity opinion, even within there, and I think that's the point too. And that's to Dimitri's point why we shifted is to bring out that diversity opinion. What can we learn from each other, and how can we best not prejudge each other and just listen? That I think that's important.
I do too. I absolutely think that's true. We see so many ignorant comments from frustrated atheists, and I understand they're frustrated, but they say, if we just sent a bomb over there and killed them all. And I'm like, do you know how many innocent people you'd be killing? Because not everyone who's going over there and doing that believes it. Not everyone. And there are so many people that have to, for the sake of taking another breath of air, they have to pretend. They have to go along They have to on Facebook make posts praising Allah, or else someone will suspect them. Okay.
Right.
Like it's insane. So absolutely not everything you see is reality.
Actually, on that note, I don't know if you caught the 60-minute interview with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, but it was fascinating what he's trying to do with that country and how he wants to come back to pre-1979, essentially Saudi Arabia, and really modernize. I don't know. I watched it and I got a lot of hope out of it. I mean, maybe that's the turning point for the Middle East, is that one country, and then they'll.
You know, I would really hope so. Armin and I actually did a news podcast covering the changes in Saudi Arabia. He is not so hopeful as I am. I was really excited to hear that Saudi Arabia was allowing women to join the security forces in the military, right? Because I said, look, you know, these women who have been treated like dogs, they can't drive. They still can't drive. I mean, it's supposed to be in like what, June this year, they're going to be able to drive. You know, they haven't been able to really do anything. And now here we are saying you can be a member of the military. I said that's great. I'm really excited about this. Armin, on the other hand, not so much. And he's a bit more knowledgeable of how things work. So, you know, hearing his advice on that was a lot of fun. I don't know. While I think that it's great to hold hope, and I hold hope with you, right? I am right there with you. Let's see if this will happen. But I do think that this is a political move that's not going to turn out the way that we think.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction. Although, you know, going back to 1979, it'll be better, but it's still very fundamentalist. The big differences in 1979, one, you have the Iranian Revolution, but in Saudi Arabia, you have a bunch of very hardcore, basically the precursors of Al Qaeda, literally take over like the major mosque in Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi Arabian army comes in and they essentially get their asses kicked. They had to call in the French legionnaires, you know, make them all take the Shahada before they would come in, and then they killed all of the terrorists. But because of that move, that changed Saudi Arabian politics for the worst, and they've become more fundamentalist Wahhabi to avoid it, essentially caving to terrorism. So,
yeah, but it sounds like they're, you know, again, it looks like they're turning the corner. I mean, this dude, he could be lying through his teeth, but at least on the surface, everything he says makes sense. If they don't transform, they're fucked. They can't live off of the oil for forever. He's not dumb. He knows that. One of his top advisors has perfect English, is a Harvard, you know, educated dude. I mean, I think they see the writing on the wall, and they're like, yeah, we need to transform into a place that people want to go to. You know, be what Turkey ended up being before Erdogan, where it was almost seen as a European country.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see.
Yeah, that would really be good. And, you know, and I think depending on where you live in the world, like being an atheist, having an atheist community, and what atheists talk about are very different, right? If you're in Bangladesh, if you're in Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, it may be, how do I make sure people don't find out about our meeting, right? And then you're talking about the basics. I think in the US, where it's a lot more pluralistic here, people are saying, how does atheism like inform my views? And it's really skepticism. It's the fact that you can ask, does God exist? One of the most important questions. You know, what do I do? What's the mean? How does that inform how you look at other things? And so people talk about social cultural politics, and I think that's at the forefront right now. There's a lot of people talking about this, and why wouldn't you?
Yeah, but it depends on where you live. I mean, there are still some communities that there's an ultra Orthodox Jewish community in New York that like literally has their own internet. So they block certain sites. It's almost like China, but in New York, in a neighborhood where they won't let certain truths out. And there was a fascinating podcast that was done by some NPR or someone like that, and they had a 2-part series with this dude who left, who became an atheist.
Well, yeah, there's a documentary on Netflix right now. I think it's called One of Us. That actually it documents an entire Hasidic community. And one of the people who left that community actually reached out to Atheist Republic and runs our New York.
Nice.
He runs our New York consulate. So it's pretty cool.
Do you guys have any Amish or Mennonites that reach out to you after they've gone through their, I don't know, their year of freedom, and
it's pretty rare.
It's
pretty rare. Yeah. Allie was the guy that reached out to Atheist Republic, who now runs our New York consulate. You know, when they do finally break out, the few who do, it's very traumatic. And it's very confusing, especially when you break out because you realize maybe, you know, this isn't correct. This isn't right. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to believe this way anymore. And then you're looking for answers somewhere else. So they don't typically jump to atheism being their next step of something else. You know, they're still indoctrined to believe there's a God. They're still pretty indoctrinated into a lot of what they're leaving. So we actually don't get a lot of the Jewish community reaching back out.
I can I can only imagine, but there's not that many of them, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In the chat, someone says in regarding to Saudi Arabia that Bedouin women have always been able to drive. I find that interesting.
In Saudi Arabia?
No.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if that's tractors or what's going on, but I thought that was an interesting comment. Somebody also wanted to know if Irish Shillelagh was a town in Ireland. No, that is just my handle, and I like it because it's an old Irish ward club and it sounds cool.
Well, and there are separate groups, like especially in Israel. You know, there are some places where women aren't allowed to drive due to religious beliefs. So, you know, seeing women, this was another news topic that we covered on our show, seeing women in the Air Force who are hopping into planes and driving planes, a very angry Zionist group had that video removed because they said women aren't even supposed to be driving, and now here you have a woman hopping out of a plane. This is ridiculous. So you know, I guess there are different communities that have different rules.
It just goes to show how worldwide, even in the atheist community, I mean, everything is different. So when we complain about how equality here and how certain atheists have certain social views and certain ones have different ones, I mean, it's very first world problems. It's so the fracturing is just, it's almost meaningless in the grand scheme of things. But we need something to do. We need fights that we want to pick on Twitter. So we do it, and then, you know, the rest of us deal with it.
Right. Well, some things are bigger too. I think that religion is often limited free speech, and like this is a problem. But I think free speech is still, depending on where you are, being limited by religion. But there are other political ideologies that want to censor speech right now too. And one of them that came up, that tweeted out, Hannibal Buress was giving a talk at Loyola. Or giving a comedy sketch, not really talk, right? I mean, he's invited there.
He was telling jokes,
and Hannibal's awesome. Like, we want to give a shout out to him. Sean and Fritz got to tour with him a little bit last summer. It was a blast. I got to see him briefly in Milwaukee. It was so cool. Hannibal's hilarious. But anyways, they said, you can't talk about this. You couldn't talk about rape, drugs, homosexuality.
I mean, they gave him a list,
a whole list, and he said, I listened to it. He goes, you know, I was not supposed to talk about this. And he goes, yeah, I thought last night, fuck it. And then he starts going, the crowd's loving it, right? And he's going to it, and they cut his mic. Okay. Now, this got fired out a lot from like American Atheist and some others that, you know, oh man, look what the Loyola did. But when I actually read the article by the Chicago Tribune, when they cited some other things, like I've never often seen, like, you know, the religious community say, okay, well, you're not allowed to talk about trans people or, you know, gay, and, you know, whether you're cis or trans or whether you're gay or straight. And this sounds like progressive politics to me, a lot more than like censorship. The Jesuits are very left, you know, that this is, to me, standard college campus. You're not allowed to joke about these kind of things. I don't know if we're actually blaming religion here when we should be blaming kind of more of like the social justice ideology.
No,
no, I just thought, I don't know if you saw that, Allie, and what you thought about that.
I did. It's very scary. It scares me when we stop anybody from saying anything like what Hannibal Buress said. If he wants to joke about sexual harassment, if he wants to joke about rape, if he wants to joke about those things, he should be allowed to joke about those things. And much like what we were talking about earlier, you can't judge a situation by its cover. There can always be something else going on. When people sit here and scream, but I'm a rape victim and that wasn't funny and what he did directly impacted me. You don't know if he's a rape victim. You don't know.
Maybe.
Okay. So some people deal with things using comedy. Some people, he is helping people work through sexual harassment, rape, things like that. When they can laugh about it and for 1 minute, it's not about them and what happened to them in their own heads. He's helping them. And so when we start shutting people up because ideas are uncomfortable, because we don't like things, when are we going to be next? Okay, yep. So many people do not like what we say. So many people do not like that we even question if there is a God or not. So when are we going to be next? And it scares me.
Well, the interesting thing, and I'll be the one person who plays devil's advocate here, is if it's a private organization and they want to be, institute an ass clown policy, okay, fine. He doesn't have to. First, he's not hurting for money. I mean, he didn't have to perform there. And there's a reason why comedians are now shunning, institutions of higher learning, is because they're these bastions of fascist control. And if that's the case, then they just won't get comedians that come there. And then the dollar walks. And so if that's the case, I mean, at some point they'll figure out the fact that, and comedians are already admitting the fact that they refuse to perform on college campuses. There's a big reason for this.
I just wanted to.
No,
Sean is trying to climb in off stage.
I just wanted to point out the irony here with Hannibal and this whole situation. People remember Hannibal was the one that started the conversation about Bill Cosby. He's the one that actually went after Bill Cosby for doing the things that he did. So actually his comedy did bring positive social change, and that's when the conversation Bill Cosby happened. So I just want to point
and the thing is, it's comedy, right? I mean, there's low-level comedy all the time. You're like, oh my God, if you tell that person that I'm going to kill you, is that insensitive to everyone that's ever been murdered or lost a loved one? No, it's a joke. I mean, it's maybe not even a funny joke. It's a low level. Everyone's like, oh, okay. You know what they mean. So when Hannibal Buress is joking about this, he's, you're doing it to laugh. I mean, the whole point of it, people joke about death all the time. Oh my God. If I'm going to do that, if I have to listen to one more of those, I'm going to die. Are you really going to die? I mean, isn't that insensitive to a cancer patient that is going to die any minute now? I mean, come on.
Everywhere you go online, that's what we see, okay? Right now, the whole Austin bomber thing has been a huge deal. And people were very excited in our community that the bombings were going to stop because somebody, the police found him, he blew himself up. Yay, right? Innocent people aren't going to be dying anymore. So one of my friends actually expressed their joy that the guy has been caught. He blew himself up. This is awesome, guys. We don't have to worry anymore. And someone said, this is disgusting. How dare you? You should never be happy over somebody's death. And it's like the moral superiority complex is just oozing all over everything. And it doesn't matter how wonderful of a person you think you are. Your opinion, I mean, it really is. Your opinion only matters to anyone who wants to make it matter.
The moral grandstanding, I find that, there's many atheists that are so in the bag for social justice that they come off sounding like fundamentalist religious. I'm like, you know what? I've got a person I should introduce you to. They also believe that they are morally superior. It's so funny. I have to give a Blair White is great. That's all. Thank you. That was a super chat that came in. So we will say Blair White is great. That's why I invited
first ever super chat too for that person.
Yes. So we'll say it again. Blair White is great. she's great. And and somebody else mentioned that they really appreciate there's a balance at MythCon with our conference coming up with September 22nd. We tried to do that. We want to get a diversity of viewpoints out there. Obviously, Blair, a trans person that considers herself on the right. That's great. Obviously, the trans community is diverse. There's nobody that can speak for the trans community. No one can speak for the atheist community. There's another one. There's a kind of a little bit off topic. Somebody wanted to know the Amish. What's the retention rate? Do you have had any Amish approach?
Good question.
Atheist Republic.
We do. We do have some Amish members. The retention rate, I wouldn't be able to give you an honest answer on that. I don't even know if an Amish person would be able to give you an honest answer on that. But we do from time to time get some people who used to be grew up in Amish communities that are out. And again, it's another set of challenges. They turn to the atheist community to grieve their loss of family, grieve for loss of community, and try to find another
completely one. Kicked out? Is that a kind of no-go back?
Actually, you're allowed a period to decide if the Amish community.
You have your year of freedom, I think, and then after that, you're supposed to.
After that, if you leave, you're shunned.
Oh, the room spring on, I think is what it's called.
The what?
Room
if you decide to stay after that period of time, if you decide to stay and then you leave, that's when it becomes a problem.
Well, I do find it funny. We mentioned this on the last podcast because going back to these social politics. So we're using this word SJW and collectively people use it pejoratively, but we don't understand. A lot of us do fight for or do care about social justice, but there's a point where something goes too far, and for everyone that point is different, right? And that scale always slides. So what we try to do is make sure that Overton window doesn't move too far into a radical direction. And that's really why we're having these conversations, is because people get isolated in their bubble. They don't talk to people they don't agree with because it makes you angry because they don't. God, I got angry with a former coworker yesterday. And again, I shouldn't have. And so he told me I was trolling him. But
can you troll in real life? Like, is that
it wasn't real life. It was online. But it's so easy to troll people online, man. You can think of like the worst comment and you just send it out, and it's there, it's delivered, and deal with it, and you can walk away. But then you have to apologize if you catch yourself doing it. That's where the grown-up mentality comes in from time to time.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point, is to prevent yourself. Like if you're gonna come at somebody really, really hard, I mean, I hope your intent isn't to change their mind, because it's probably going to dig them in a little deeper. I do think we want to be more civil to each other online. I don't think you have to necessarily. Some people say nice. I would say civil, because you can disagree. You ought critique. That's fine. But if you want to get through to them, maybe asking things as questions and rather than assuming.
Well, bingo, Brian, because that's exactly what we do, right? On Atheist Republic. If anyone's ever scrolled through our page, you'll see almost every post is asking a question. We want atheists' opinions, right? We want to be your platform for you to say what you feel and what you think. So I can't tell you over the course of the past couple of years how many people who have trolled Atheist Republic coming to us with every Christian comment they could possibly think of to attack our discussion that's going on. And they come to us finally and they say, you know what? Like, I get it. I get it now. You guys took my faith. So, people can start off trolling, and that's why we don't ban anybody, right? People are allowed to say and do whatever they want on my platform. If you hate me and you want to come to that platform and be like, you know what, Allie Jackson is a ugly cow, I hate her. We're not going to ban you for it. Everyone is allowed to say anything.
Super political, though. I mean, that's your MO, right? You're very kind of neutral.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For example, like you're coming to MythCon this year, right? And Armin Navabi is going to the American Atheist Conference.
Yes.
The American Atheist Conference has built their entire marketing platform about being anti-MythCon. It's
so isn't that crazy? They've got the founder, you guys have the CEO, and you know, Armin and I consider ourselves, both of us consider ourselves great friends of Atheist Milwaukee. And I've only had pleasant experiences with David Silverman and the American Atheist. So, you know, I hope that nobody takes that personally. I know that you guys don't. I hope nobody.
No, that's the funny thing is, you know, all these jabs that are thrown in our direction, and we're like, why? Why? What? A, what did we ever do to you? And B, we harbor no free will to anyone. So what is wrong with you?
Right.
You know,
everyone I hate is Hitler, right? So, and that's what we're seeing so much of. You know, you don't agree with my opinion. We posted something that somebody took as pro-Trump, which we would never do. We have a volunteer team of over 300 people. We all have different political ideas, feelings, opinions on every matter. So we don't take a stance publicly on things like Donald Trump, right? So we made a post asking for people's opinions, and the next thing you know, Armin, myself, and his wife are getting doxxed. We're getting doxxed because we are pro-Trump, and you know, it's just ridiculous. All we're doing is trying to start a discussion. We just want to hear your opinion. You should be able to go to an online forum, deliver your opinion, and if you don't like someone else's opinion, you know, you can take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's exactly right.
Well, that's the sad thing is we don't live in a community anymore where you could just say whatever. I mean, shit, take the Count Dankula thing that happened, you know, yesterday. That was, by the way, hashtag free Dankula. I mean, it's important to mention that, you know, we need to protect things like free speech. We need to be able to joke. We need to be able to start discussions. And even if you like Trump, then it's your right to do so. It doesn't mean that you're an immoral person. This is part of the argument I had with my buddy. I'm like, what if you like him for one reason? What if you think
and you were a single issue voter? Yeah.
What if your stocks are going to go up? And he's like, well, then that's a moral judgment on you because you hate the fellow black man or whatever it is. And I'm like, well, maybe you're not in that community. Maybe this is your important point. I mean, you can't judge someone across the board, and you can't say that now they're misogynist because they support this one guy for a financial
That would
reason.
be like saying, oh, well, you voted for Hillary Clinton. She called half of all Trump supporters, which is say what, quarter of the population, deplorables, and therefore you're
a basket of deplorables.
Yeah, right. And what do we do? You know, you must be a fan of genocide. Come on. I mean, this is absolutely absurd. You know,
yeah, you can't have an opinion without somebody taking an extreme. You know, and I just live by, and it's funny running a huge page that we have a huge reach to. I mean, just this week alone, we've already reached 16 million. You know, we have a huge reach, so we get to see so many different opinions, and so many people come to us being like, do you see this? You didn't stop them from saying this, so you must agree with them, and you're terrible, disgusting, rotten, white misogynists. And you know, it's like, I am not the internet police. I may not like someone's opinion, but I'm not gonna, what am I gonna do, spank them? I don't.
Yeah, because in my race,
they may want you to,
and because you know my race, you therefore know my opinion. An obviously very prejudicial and racial statement. The irony, and to bring it back to like Count Dankula, if people don't know what's going on there,
thanks.
So
you should explain.
But yeah, we should. So he's this guy in England. So he made this video, right?
Scotland.
And you can find the UK. So he made this video. Now his idea of like getting at a funny joke or cruel joke or whatever on his girlfriend who loves her little pug, and she's talking about how awesome the pug is because pug life and blah blah blah. So anyway, so it's a cute pug. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna teach the pug to be a Nazi and see if you found that's cute. So he makes these videos where he's like saying things like gas the Jews and like getting the dog to raise its hand like Heil Hitler, and then he's gonna like do this to her and be like, see, look, your pug's a Nazi, it's not cute. Okay, now people can decide.
He was
whether
trying to
that's
train
funny.
the dog to react to inappropriate statements.
You're right, and like, what can the dog do? It can't talk, but it can raise its hand up like this, you know, in the Sig Heil. So, all right, you can judge it. People can find that funny. People
Brian, someone's gonna screen capture that.
Okay, it's a paw. We're talking about a pug, right? Okay. Anyways, some people think this was really gross. This is in bad taste. Some people think it's funny. Some people don't give a shit, right? But the thing is, society can make whatever judgments they want, right? And if 95% of people think that was shit, 5 people like it, 5% like it, or whatever, like that's fine. But when the government says this is grossly offensive, this is a problem, because what's grossly offensive next? You know what? Debate. I've heard that MythCon was grossly offensive, or is that the next censorship? So the dominoes start to fall, and it's very, very important that the government not have an opinion on offense in this way.
I can't believe the judge sat there and couldn't see not even the irony, but the juxtaposition of a pug, which is a cute little. Actually, I don't like pugs. But you know, a cute little dog that is juxtaposed with the Nazi. That's the whole point. That's what makes it funny. If it was a German Shepherd, it probably wouldn't be funny. And maybe he would go to jail at that point. But it's a pug. Jeez. I mean, you gotta look at it within context, and you have to judge motive.
I know. What did they have to bring in the pug as evidence? And like, what if he took a shit right in the middle of Chambers? That's what I was wondering. I'm like, we're arguing over a goddamn dog. You know, and the government ought not have opinion. If 95% of Britain all tweets at him and says, "Man, you're a dumbass," or whatever, I'm fine with that, right? If only 5% do, they don't like.
It's social pressure.
Yeah, it is absolutely social pressure. But I mean, look at Jordan Peterson's talks, right? It was like the Night of the Living Dead at Queen's College. They're all beating on the windows and doors as a very intellectual discussions going on. But yet they would put the same thing, that this is as disgusting as Count Dankula. Where does it end? Who gets to be the censor?
Scary.
And that's the thing.
No, what really scares me.
They're going to be the radicals.
Who are they trying to serve justice to?
In what?
They don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Who are they? That's a good question.
Smash. What did they say? Smash the bigotry. What did their little poster?
But who is the victim here?
Yeah.
And that is where I have such a huge problem with this. I didn't think it was that funny what he did. I really don't care, though, to be honest with you. But I didn't think it was funny. But for the law to get involved, I feel there should be a victim. And I feel that if he is going to be punished, it should serve as justice to that victim. So if there is no victim, the dog is not hurt. Okay. Right. The dog was probably given plenty of treats to learn how to do that. Okay. If anyone has ever studied Pavlov, you'd know. So the dog was probably given treats. I highly doubt that anyone was abused here. So if we are trying to say that our offense is worth society's offense is the victim here, that is scary.
Right. And so the one critique would be, well, there are, of course, limitations on free speech. And that ends with like an incitement to violence. Yep. I don't have the right on that to free speech. So if this was, say, Andrew Anglin, you know, from the Daily Stormer putting this out, there's somebody who has like a bigger evidence of being a hardcore anti-Semite, maybe you can go after the incitement to violence. But again, you can't even go after Andrew Anglin for offensive opinion. So really, like, you would have to, like, for Dankula to go to jail legitimately, he has to be inciting violence. And his apology, I just don't believe he's an anti-Semite. In order for their government to be consistent, you would have to also then ban Kathy Griffin from the country for what she did on her, like, fake banning of Trump. Right? Is that offensive? Like, why isn't she banned from the country? Like, this is absurd, right? Kathy Griffin, she did nothing wrong either. We call balls and strikes the same way here. You know, that she should be right to that expression. If people say, "Oh, I don't want to go to her show now," fine. The government can't shut her down, though.
Well, the UK doesn't protect free speech. I mean, and that's another strike against it as being a shitty country. So that's, you know, that's just another reason to move here. All you UKers. But it could happen here, and that's the problem. You've got C-16 in Canada. You've got this setting a legal precedent in the UK, and we don't know what's gonna happen here, which is why people are talking about it.
That kind of brings us up to blasphemy laws that are still alive and well in America. Do you guys remember a couple years ago that teenager who humped a statue of Jesus's face?
No.
I don't know if you remember that or not. It was just a joke.
I remember the Black Mirror episode where the guy humped a statue and then he was going to be corrected for it.
Okay, that was awesome.
Oh, yeah, it was that.
But this was also awesome. This kid just humped the statue of Jesus' face. It was hilarious. He was down on his knees. So it made sense for him to do that. But no, he actually got fined and everything, and it was for a blasphemy law that's still alive and well in Pennsylvania. So even we, I don't think, have total freedom of speech. We do have outdated, ridiculous laws. Anything that has to do with blasphemy obviously should not be against the law anywhere, but it's surprising for people to hear that it's still alive and well in the United States.
I mean, if you're able to burn a U.S. flag, which for some people is its own religion,
I should be able to hump Jesus's face.
Yeah, I mean, let's call it like it is.
And then some people are allowed to say, dude, that's not cool, or whatever you want. I mean,
absolutely, people can hate it. People are allowed to hate it and voice their hatred. That's fine.
Or you roll it back. I mean, you can be in Iran, and if you don't wear your hijab, right, or your chador, like you can be convicted for disturbing the public chastity.
No, yeah, these women are getting.
That's where we're going. If the down
inciting prostitution for not wearing their hijab. Okay, inciting prostitution. So.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, what did Dankula do? Did he disturb the public chastity? Like what this is dumb. Like the government doesn't have an opinion. If there's going to be this public outcry and whatever, and the BBC runs a story on it, fine. Like I would hope that people would try to cover these things fairly. But the government, oh my God, that is a dangerous. This is very troubling, and that we don't want it here. You don't want compelled speech in Canada. I mean, Jordan Peterson says the difference between like pronouns, like, okay, well, I'm compelled to use the pronoun now. Well, what about my adjectives, right? What if I don't like the way you describe me? Can I compel you to use the adjectives that I like or my pronouns? Like, where does it end? I mean, you're really going to be in.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
If I tell you that I'm a toaster, you better refer to me as one. And if I make up a pronoun that goes with toaster, then that's it. It's on you, buddy.
Yeah. Right. And now I can go to jail. And again, who is making? And in Bill C-16, they're getting the trans activists to help write the bills. Who they're getting ideologues. With the trans, there is no one that speaks for the trans community. Was Blair White on that commission? Were there any conservative leaning trans people Canadian. At all? Okay, fine. But I am sure that there's a diversity opinion in Canada, but the thing is they're not. And the thing is, it's always the radicals, whether they're on the right or on the left or wherever they are. Those are the ones that want to choose for you what you can see, hear, or read. And that I don't want that.
There's a lot of interesting things going on in the media. What about for yourself, Allie? Who are you reading, following, watching? It doesn't have to be an author, could be a YouTuber, could be whoever, but I don't think we ask this question enough because people who we respect, we love to find out who they're following on social media or wherever, and maybe that'll give us avenues to talk to more interesting people. So is there anyone on your radar?
I wish that I were more interesting and I had more time to follow people. No, so actually, what I do is I get a fantastic variety of YouTube videos sent to Atheist Republic daily. I'm saying we get like 30 people sent, 30 videos sent daily. So I get to go through them and kind of figure out who I want to listen to, and it's really fun that way. So I find a lot of things that I don't like. I listen to a lot of rhetoric from the Islamic community. I watch videos, on just about everything. But, when I first got involved in the atheist community, I actually liked Armored Skeptic. And that was years ago.
That's on fire.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be on stage with him. And then of course, my views over the past couple of years, I've done so much growing as far as the way I used to think and the way I used to believe. So, people who challenge my views, those are the people I like to listen to. People who don't agree with me are the people I like to listen to because I like it when I'm wrong. I like it when someone can come to me and say, hey, you know what, actually this. And they give me something of substance, something that's better than what I was putting out there. Because when I'm wrong, it gives me an opportunity to correct myself and have a better view because it's right. And I know it's right because you've given me the documentation that says so. So I like to now watch a lot of people who, you know, I don't agree with.
Yeah, that's how you get out of a bubble. And the thing is, if you were thinking a bad way, and you also don't have to prostrate yourself and beg for forgiveness in this strange way that call out culture likes. Like if I'm talking with a person that's a racist, I'm content for them to just stop being a racist. You don't need to apologize to the whole world. Just stop it, right? If you're like, man, I was kind of an asshole for thinking that. Okay, change.
Yeah,
like
but and this is the interesting. It's very difficult to change. It is incredibly difficult. I don't remember if it's Jordan Peterson who says this, but a part of you has to die. If you transition from being a conservative to a liberal to conservative, you had this whole persona. You had a.
Do I have to throw away my Ann Coulter books now?
I don't agree with that.
You're built up, and then all of a sudden, overnight or whatever it is, maybe it's a slow transition. You have to go, you know what? I was a piece of shit for 10 years. You know, nope. Now I'm a better person. That's
I think instead of looking at it as a part of you dies, it's a part of you evolves. Because you know, I've done a lot of changing over my lifetime. I was a strong I loved God. I was a child of God. I went to vacation Bible schools during my summers. I read the Bible. I studied the Bible. I loved God.
Baptist, right?
Yes. And so, you know, I transitioned over time. And while it felt like the only thing to me during that transition that died was God. And I mourned for him for a very long time. And I know we're probably running short on time, so I'm sorry. But, you know, I feel like that part of me that still had all that love to give and all that empathy and all that everything, it just evolved into something more. And now look what I do. I run a one-on-one support group for people around the world to share that love and that empathy with. So I don't ever want anyone to look at it as a piece of them has to die. I don't think it has to die. I think it just has to evolve. And once you get in the mind frame of it's okay to be wrong, I am on many podcasts where I'm wrong often, but I always ask people, I always say, look, this is what I think. If anyone can tell me why I'm wrong, please do. And once you just kind of keep that mind frame that it's okay if you have an opinion, and it's okay if somebody shows you that that opinion is wrong, then you're open to everything. And the world is so much better.
Yeah,
I think it depends on how many people you talk to, though. So when you were a Southern Baptist, were you meeting droves of atheists who were telling you were dumb and that God doesn't exist? Hypothetically. And if the answer is no, then it's a totally different thing than making a political shift, because there is half of the country sitting in a conservative bubble, and there are a bunch of liberals telling them that they're morons. And so it is very difficult to one day wake up and go, you know what, for however many years, I have been a moron. And people have been telling me this repeatedly, and now I have to admit it to myself.
Well, but I'll do you one better. I was a strong liberal just a few years ago.
You can be wrong on one thing. I reject a little bit to the moron. Like you're allowed to be right on a lot of things and wrong on something else. It doesn't mean, you know, you were a moron. That's the thing. Like
no, that's the rhetoric.
People are saying, though, you know, like online, they're calling people moron. So, you know, I used to be a strong liberal. I was the person screaming moron. I was this person screaming wake up. I was that person politically. Okay, and my views have shifted quite a lot over this last year. And I do stay pretty quiet about my political views now, because I made that shift. And I remember when I used to scream.
Is that one right there?
You know, but you can do it if you're open to ideas, and if you can toughen up the skin a little bit and say some idiot on the internet called me a moron. I mean, I get death threats every day. I guess maybe that's why I can stay in that kind of state. But, you know, yeah, someone's going to call you names. That's fine. I get called misogynist. I get called white supremacist. I get called names all the time. And that's fine. They can call me names. I'm going to keep doing the work that I do. And it's good work that I feel is going to better the world. But I keep my mind open to new ideas constantly. And I'm constantly looking to find ways where I was wrong and I can improve.
Right. Now, do you think that you are smarter than the religious?
No.
No, I don't think so. Right. There's somebody in the chat that thinks, you know, they're saying, why do atheists always think that they're smarter? And I'm like, well, some atheists, right, narcissistic people, whether they're religious or atheists or not, will probably think that they're smarter than you.
Yeah, a hell of a lot more Christians that are smarter than me.
Of course. And you can disagree. You can think that my point is right over that, but that doesn't mean that I think that
it's a maturity level. There were for years I thought that I was smarter than theists because they're idiots and they believe in a magical dude on a cloud. And then you grow out of it and you understand that people are specialists in other fields and shit. Okay, that's one aspect of your personality. Yes. That's right. Everything else, I'm probably dumber, you know, than the average bear. Yeah, there you go. No, we did, Allie, want to talk about your segment on at MythCon 5, which is talking about the divides in atheism and really how you're going to bring that group together and make sure it's a civilized discussion where people share ideas.
Right.
I don't understand why it wouldn't be civilized. And I think that our panel is really interesting because we probably all have different opinions. So I'm really excited to be there and get presented with different ideas. I think that it's going to be fun, self-reflecting while trying to defend a point. So it's going to be fantastic. We are going to be talking about how the political climate is dividing the atheist community. We will be probably discussing a lot of the name calling and things that you mentioned earlier on deciding why our
atheists divided. Yes, I know. Like we at one point, yeah, the president of American Atheists, said to the MythCon when he watched it that my bile bubbled, and I was thinking you ought to get that looked at. But it was like you watched 30-second clip and now you're judging all of it. This is not using your skepticism.
No, this is one of excuse me. This is one of my most favorite things ever right now is the MythCon conventions has people from all over the place with all sorts of different ideas. Where I was saying earlier, people call me a white supremacist, people call me racist, whatever, for the posts that we make on Atheist Republic. They also turn around and call me a feminazi and, a liberal snowflake and everything else. So no one really knows quite where I stand. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. On stage talking about these ideas. And I think it's really funny how Mythicist Milwaukee gets a lot of criticism for everybody having the same ideas. They're all the same, blah, blah. I don't think that has never happened. And it's certainly not going to happen this year. We are all going to go there representing all sorts of different atheists, being their voice since they won't be able to be there to defend themselves. So it's going to be outrageously interesting.
Yeah, and there's somebody too in the chat that said they're skipping VidCon to come to MythCon. We salute that. I think that's a good choice.
Hey, we support VidCon, but why not?
but no, VidCon's fine. I think it was great.
And they have a lot of people coming. Like they're not hurting. They're right. Fine.
But I don't know if they make it a point for have viewpoint diversity. We do. And we think that makes it special. So if you want to come, bring any opinion you want, as long as you want to engage civilly, right? If you get offended by the discussion of ideas, it's not for you. There's other cons, that you can go to.
Wisely put, Brian. Wisely put.
Thanks, big guy.
Allie, thank you so much for being here, for talking to us. We're definitely going to see you in September.
Yeah.
And however we can promote Atheist Republic, I think we'll have it in the notes, under the video, but whatever, how can people find you? Let me ask that way, just so.
We are the biggest or largest atheist community on Facebook. So if you just type in Atheist Republic, you're bound to find our page. Please
if
keep
it's not deleted, which it sometimes gets. So
which it does by offended people. So yeah, please look us up. Look up our groups. We've got a private group for atheists only where we don't discuss atheism. Matter of fact, if you like a group where people ask really crazy, weird questions, it's probably the group for you. But, you know, it's a good place to meet friends, socialize with other atheists from around the world, get new perspectives.
You got some fetishes in there? What's happening? Are you joining your group?
Well, I was okay. So I have to tell the story. I was going to make a post on our page welcoming people to our group, but the top post that kept coming up over and over and over because everyone was discussing it said, "What is your favorite thing to put in your anus?" And it was a joke post because someone had originally asked, "What is your favorite candy?" And then after like hundreds of people answered what their favorite candy was, she edited the post to say, "What is your favorite thing to put in your anus?" Which is hilarious, right? We have fun. We have fun.
Wait,
so
what was the #1 vote?
I think it was Kit Kat. I think Kit Kat was pretty popular.
One?
Oh, Charleston chew. They're like, man, that's big.
A payday. No, I don't know.
Oh, what's the Toblerone? Is that the triangular?
But so, you know, I couldn't exactly put up a post on the page asking people to join at that moment because people would, you know, join and be like, "Oh my God, this isn't about atheism. What is this?" No, it's never really about atheism. But we do, you know what we do when that group pull together when there is somebody who is in danger. The Egyptian atheist who was thrown off of the show in Egypt and was told he had a mental disorder. He was in our group. We pull together and we help people. That's what we do. So while we do have fun, nothing is ever really about atheism in that group. It is a strong knit community of close friends from around the world getting new perspectives, and it's a lot of fun. Perfect. So please look us up.
I just wanted to pop in here one more time, guys. A lot of people don't know, like when it was MythCon 1 actually, where we came across Atheist Republic when we were first starting out, trying to figure out, you know, the lay of the land and figure out, you know, all the things, all the different names and all that fun stuff. Allie actually was like one of our first like major supporters. Like when me and Fritz, actually I think Fritz made the connection first, but Allie has been nothing but supportive of what we're doing, and your guys' platform is so big, and like for us, like it was just an honor, and your continued support is really appreciated, especially since, you know, all the things we've been going through in this community. And I just want to say that, Allie, to you personally, thank you so much.
Thank you. That's so nice.
And Armin as well. And yeah, Atheist Republic is constantly doing amazing things, and you know, really check them out. And it's interesting because they're shifting to, the conversation is shifting in atheism, and they're staying right on top of it with talking about all these other political issues and social issues. And I just applaud you guys and all the work you put in. And I know how much work you put in because this is full time for you, and it's like 80, 90 hours a week. So really, thank you for all of you do that. All you do, all of you do. And
everyone go visit the Facebook page.
Go visit the Facebook page and all the different the Twitter, all YouTube. They have a bunch of shows coming out, and check her out. She's going to be in Milwaukee again in September.
And come to Milwaukee in September. You'll get to see Allie live.
Yeah. So thank you.
I love it. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Take
care. Next
Allie,
week we have,
just stay on the line, Allie. Next week we have
Brittany Simon.
Wednesday, 7 o'clock Central. Simon. The host got to get used to saying that.
I was saying it.
Yeah, you got Brian. He's organized. Yeah. He has a checkered shirt on. He's great.
So thank you everyone for joining.